This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is bound for glory, and if you ride it, you must be holy. This train, my Lord, this train don't care no liars, this train. This train don't care no liars, this train.
While we were in the store business, we had a great business with Aunt Phoebia Sullivan, who was of the black race, and there was a big settlement at that time of people in her group then. As her children and her grandchildren got old enough, she sent those people, children, grandchildren, to up around Washington to get an education. They were all well educated. But Aunt Phoebe was just a great person, just a great person. A lot of people older people would remember Aunt Phoebe. She made a tonic and she sold it in half-gallon jars. My mother-in-law bought some of that and tried to get my husband and I to drink it, but we chose not to because it didn't really taste good. It was bitter as all get out. But anyway, Aunt Phoebe bought most of her groceries from us. But about Thanksgiving, she would call on the phone. Yes, we had a phone back then in the store, and she would call and ask for Mama and Daddy to come over and bring the tablet, as Mama said. And she told them how many people was in her settlement, which was 40 or 50 or maybe 60 then. She was going to have a Christmas Eve party. She ordered food to be delivered for it. She also told Mama to write down John Jones. He would wear a size 15.5 shirt. She named over everybody in her settlement. She named over the kids. She gave the ages of the kids. If they were 8, she would say, Richard is 8 or will be 8, but now Richard's a big boy, Miss Gordon, so you've got to have a larger shirt than a size 8 or whatever. And usually she liked shirts for the men and or sweaters. All the time the kids got overalls, jeans as we would call them today, but mostly the full overall. And they always got socks and caps and gloves. The kids got more than the adults did, but every person in her settlement got a gift, and she had a great meal for them on Christmas Eve night. That was really a wonderful thing. Aunt Phoebe had a daughter, Ruth Weston. Ruth ran a cafe over in this settlement, just down a little ways in front of Aunt Phoebe's house and in front of the Sullivan Temple, which was Aunt Phoebe had constructed. Ruth made pound cakes in white dish pans. So when you got a slice of Ruth's pound cake, you had cake. It was tall and thick. And she made the best hamburgers that I have ever tasted. I've told you what we ate for lunch during the week, but on Saturday, Daddy would always send the delivery man from the store, who was Ernest Heatherly or Odell Coggins, over to Ruth's Cafe to get hamburgers for all of us for lunch. And that was a tremendous treat. And she would always send us all a piece of her great pound cake. So that was a real good time for us. I mean, it was a real treat when you got one of Ruth's hamburgers.
Can I ask you a question about that cafe? I had heard that Phoebe had a cafe or restaurant in the lower part of her house.
She had, I think, some type of cooking mechanisms down there, because when she did all of these big meals like Christmas Eve, and then of course Aunt Phoebe always did on Mother's Day, and her birthday was right close to that, she always had people in from up north, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and always had the most fabulous food and also the most fabulous music. I can remember so distinctly going, she always asked Mama and Daddy and I, and we sat on the front row in chairs out in the yard, and the singers was on her front porch. And I can remember she had one black quartet that sang, and they stood, one would stand, and then the next one would stand and put their arms on that one's shoulders, and then the next one. And they did some gospel song, and I don't remember the name, but they played like a train. They moved, and oh, it was so good. And everybody always requested that song over and over. So before they left, before the Sunday was over, they did the gospel song that was reminiscent of the train many, many times. But anyway, answering your question, there must have been some way of cooking in the lower part of that house, because the upper part of the house was high, up high, and that's where the singers stood when all this happened.
So the cafe was across the road on the side the church is on?
It was sort of in front of the church. If you had have turned there, it would have been on your left, close to the house, but it was not right on where Aunt Phoebe's house and where her the temple was, Sullivan's temple. I understand that I know Aunt Phoebe died during the years, and she is buried in the Mountain Page Cemetery. So that's about Aunt Phoebe.
This ain't no can no liars, no two husbands, no two wives. This ain't my Lord, this ain't. Wow, 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 wow. This train don't carry no gamblers, this train. This train don't carry no gamblers, this train. This train don't carry no gamblers, hobo liars, midnight ramblers, this train. My Lord, this train. This train is bound for glory, this train. This train is